Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, dear friends. I am Professor Jasim Ahmed from IASC Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. The topic of our today's discussion is development of self-concept and identity. The objectives of today's discussion are to describe the terms like self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-image, and self-motive. After the discussion, you will be in a position to explain the meaning of self-concept and will be able to describe the concept and meaning of identity. You will be also in a position to describe how to develop self-concept and identity, and we will be also discussing the role of teachers in developing their own self-concept and identity, as well as the students' self-concept and identity, so that they can become a good teacher and a good professional, teachers. So friends, for understanding the concept of self and its importance, I would like to first recall one of the most important verses of Allama Iqbal, the renowned poet of Urdu literature. He said, जिंदगी कुछ और शय है, इल्म है कुछ और शय, जिंदगी सोजे जिगर है, इल्म है सोजे दिमाग. And he is trying to compare the life with the education, life and the knowledge itself. And he said that life is different and knowledge is different. Life is, how to spend life. What is life? How to lead life? How to spend your life on this earth? It is a different skill. And life is, spent with the help of this heart, whereas education or knowledge is something which is obtained with the help of mind. That's why he say, जिंदगी कुछ और शय है, इल्म है कुछ और शय, जिंदगी सोजे जिगर है, इल्म है सोजे दिमाग. In the another, verse in the sequence, he says, इल्म में दौलत भी है, कुदरत भी है, लज्जत भी है. He's praising, and trying to convey the importance of education, importance of knowledge, and saying that ilm mein daulat bhi hai, education or the knowledge has wealth in itself. Ilm mein daulat bhi hai, qudrat bhi hai. It has also carries with it the empowerment. Nowadays, the world is talking about the empowerment of women, empowerment of children, empowerment of farmers, empowerment of low class people, empowerment of each and every citizen of the world. And this verse itself reflecting that empowerment cannot be imagined without knowledge, without education. So if you want to empower some section of the society or any individual of the society, there is only one way, and that is to give education. That's why he is saying ilm mein daulat bhi hai, qudrat bhi hai, lazzat bhi hai. That means education carries with itself that the wealth, the empowerment, as well as the test of life. And in the last stanza I say, एक मुश्किल है कि हाथ आता नहीं अपना सुराग. But there is only one problem, and the problem is that we do not understand ourself in in a good way. And because we don't understand ourselves, we fail in achieving or in getting proper level and proper quality and right kind of education. So it is very important that we must understand ourselves, we try to understand ourselves, and accordingly we try to endeavor for education, for getting knowledge. So friends, now discuss about Carl Roger's self-theory of personality. Carl Roger was a prominent psychologist, basically a humanistic psychologist, who worked on the development of personality of an individual. And according to Carl Roger, human personality is composed of two parts. One is organism and another is self. This he calls as the structure of personality. So Carl Roger is talking about the structure of personality on one hand, and at the same time he also talks about the dynamics of personality. Under a structure of personality, he talks that personality of any individual is composed of two parts. One is organism and another is self. Organism means the totality of experiences acquired by an individual. For example, if we take an example of a student who is studying in class 12 and is of around 20 years of age, for example. So in the entire 20 years of his life, whatever experiences he has acquired or she has acquired uh, is the basically organism of that individual in here in this particular theory. It is not a biological organism. Basically, it is a phenomenological worldview of that individual, the entire experience of the individual, the entire knowledge, the experience, the attitude, the perception, the value system what he or she has acquired in the total span of 20 years constitute the organism of that individual. And the another aspect under a structure of personality is the self. That is, with the help of this organism, the learner or the individual tries to understand himself or herself, and accordingly he or she moves in his life. So as far as the structure of personality is concerned, there are two aspects. One is organism and another is self. Further, Carl Roger divides self into two parts. One is real self and another is ideal self. Real self means the whatever you are today, what I am today at this moment of time, what is my experience today, what is my knowledge, level of knowledge, what is the level of my understanding, what is the level of my aspiration, what is the status of my income, what is the status of my family in the society, what is the respect I am gaining from the society. All these constitute the real self. That is the present status of your complete personality. What you are, what I am at a particular moment of time is our real self. With the help of this real self, I want to achieve something, and that what I want to achieve is the ideal self of an individual. For example, if a person is earning 50,000 per month, and with this 50,000 per month, he is helping the entire member of the family in education or in the livelihood, or maintaining the social or still life standard of the society. But he at the same time now is not satisfied with 50,000, and he or she try to increase his monthly income from 50,000 to 75,000. So this earning of 75,000 per month becomes the ideal self for that particular individual, and earning of 50,000 is real self of the individual. Now, so at the same time, Carl Roger talks about the dynamics of personality. So whatever we discussed till moment was the structured personality, which is organism and the self, and self is divided into two parts: the real self and the ideal self. And I gave you an example of an individual who is earning 50,000 per month, and he want to achieve an ideal self of 75,000 per month. So you can see in this picture that the person is standing at real self, and he with 50,000 per month. Now he wants to move to the ideal self to get 75,000 per month, and in the process he works very hard. He uses his energy, he uses his skill, he develop and sharpen, strengthen their skills, and he becomes more laborious, he becomes more rational, he may becomes more logical, and he may search for new ways of earning, so that he can manage to get 75,000 per month. In the process he moves forward, in the process he progresses, in the process he goes ahead, and from the present position he move on to another position, which is A, maybe from A to B, and from 50,000 to 55,000, 55,000 to 60,000, and 60,000 to 65,000 to C. And as soon as the person reaches at the level of 65,000 per month, Roger says very interesting thing, that his ideal self don't remain at the previous position, but his ideal self moves ahead. And so the distance between, the gap between the real self and ideal self always remain, and this gap has to be filled by the learner, by the individual, and this led him to work very hard. And this is basically dynamics of personality, because of this factor, because of this gap between the real self and ideal self, because of this stress to achieve that ideal self, to achieve that particular goal of life in the form of ideal self, the person moves ahead, the person progresses ahead. the person works very hard and to attain that success. And this he calls as dynamics of personality, which is very interesting for all of us, for all teachers and for all students. Teachers need to discuss this particular theory with all the students and help the students to understand their real self and to help them to set their real ideal self in a better manner so that they can achieve. So now friends, we try to understand various terms related to self concepts. So first of all, talk about simple, that is self. So the term self is normally applied in reference to conscious reflection of one's own being or identity, an object separate from others or from environment. So the self is something which separates you from others, which tells you what you are as compared to other members of the society, as compared to other individuals around you. But now the question is how you can understand about yourself, what you are. For that, you need to have self-awareness. And self-awareness of people makes them to compare how they actually are and what they would like to be with respect to an ideal or a standard or a goal. This self-awareness makes you to understand what you are and what you want to be. And this self-awareness are also of two types. One is the private self and another is public self. So private self is basically the internalized standard which plays key factor to determine our behavior with respect to our private self-awareness, whereas public self is oriented towards presentation of individual to others in a positive aspect. So these two are different. Maybe with some individual, his private self and public self are same. For some individual, private self is different and public self is different. When people become self-aware, they take self as object of their attention and focus on their own appearance, own thought process and action, what they are supposed to take to go ahead in their lives. This leads to the development of self-knowledge of that particular individual. Self-knowledge is basically developed with the help of self-awareness. So self-awareness enables people to grow, elaborate sets of beliefs about themselves. These set of beliefs are self-knowledge, which is sometimes called as self-concept in totality, self-concept in general. So this self-concept is basically the entire understanding of your own personality, your own strength, your weakness, your positive attribute, your negative attribute of your personality. So the entire the characteristic feature of your personality, all the positive and negative aspects of your personality, all the potentialities hidden in your personality constitute your self-concepts. The better you know your self-concept, better you can plan for your future goals. That is why it is very important for all of us to understand, to develop and to understand our self-concept. Now, this is also influenced by your self-motive. The self-motive help you to understand your self concept. According to Leary, self-motive is an inclination that is focused on establishing or maintaining a particular state of self-awareness, self-representation, or self-evaluation. Self-motive work towards the search for self-knowledge. And when you search your self-knowledge, you are in a position to understand your self-concept. So self-concept is generally considered as the cognitive aspect of self and is referred to as the totality of a complex, organized and dynamic system of learned belief, attitudes and opinions that each person holds to be true about his or her personal existence, whereas self-esteem is referred to as the affective or emotional aspect of self, which is concerned with the feelings and values which a person keeps for himself or herself. Now, friends, it is very important to understand how this self-concept develops. So self-concept develops through self-differentiation. You know, how personality differentiate when the child is born. So at the birth of the child, the personality is a type of unitary personality. And as the child grow in different types of environment, with different type of members in the society, with different culture, with different civilization, with different sort of material world and multicultural society, with different sort of environmental factors, this personality of the newborn baby differentiate in course of time. So process of differentiating oneself from others on various aspects is basically the differentiation of personality. It starts with birth, go on till adulthood, continue with the developmental process, Through this process, we continue to construct and reconstruct ourselves. So don't understand that once the self is developed, it is final. No, self or identity, self-concept, whatever we developed at a particular time, it is never permanent. It always, construct and reconstruct, and the process of construction and reconstruction of self-concept go on throughout our lives. Just I'm going to talk about now role taking, another very important medium of developing our self concept. Looking at self and something with others perspective is basically role taking, according to habit. Through role taking, child learns to respond reflexively. It helps him or her to look at himself or herself as if from outside, thus by recognizing that others see him or her as object. This led him or her to either praise or reprimand or control his own behavior. And in this way, it helps in developing our self-concept and self-understanding. Self-image is another very important, way to understand our self-concept. In 1902, Coolidge coined a term called looking glass self, which is very famous, concept. The most important looking glass self of children is their father or mother, and later their playmates or peer groups. Children are generally influenced by these people whose reflected views play a significant role in the formation of child's self-image. Self-image influences child's understanding of self. So, if you want to know yourself, you must try to see what other persons, what your family members, what your father, what your mother, what your siblings, and what your peer group, or what other members of the society think about you. So what they think about your personality, what they think about your behavior, what they think about your value system, what they think about your, your character and your behavior, all these which are reflected from your environment about you will help you to understand yourself, and it will help you to shape your personality in a better manner. Now, friends, come to talk about identity. Identity is the conception regarding peculiar characteristics, beliefs, and expression of a person. The identity is as perceived by the person himself or herself and that of the group to which he or she belongs, for example, a school or college or region of the country that the person is native of. So self help you to develop your identity. Unless you understand yourself, you can't develop your identity. The attributes that separate you from others, that which make you identifiable as a person or as a citizen of any particular nation, as a follower of any belief system, as a member of a particular community, society, or culture. So this attribute or these attributes which make you, separate, which differentiate you from other culture, other society, other nation, and other family system is basically the identity of you or yourself or your family or your nation or your school or your society at large. So identity formation is very important. Identity formation. Each and every individual in the present world, is facing the crisis of identity. So identity formation is something which help you to form your identity as a son, identity as a father, identity as a citizen of India, identity as a member of a particular society, particular culture, particular community. But sometimes in several conditions, people face crisis of identity. As for example, in the case of adolescent children who are of the 13 or 14 or 15 years of age, and in the family system itself, there is a crisis of identity because the parent have their opinion about that particular child who is of 15 years of age, that he is not mature enough to take any decision and to purchase something from the market. That's why parents give this responsibility to elder brother, and elder brother goes out, purchase something from the market for the family, and that particular guy who is of 15 years of age, that is in the stage of adolescence, used to think that, oh, Papa don't believe me. Papa don't believe me. I'm not supposed to believe with the children. They generally or often scold me to when I play with the young children, and I'm not also given the responsibility to purchase something from the market. So the child faces a situation of crisis. Neither he is being accepted by the younger children, and nor he is being accepted by their parents as his elder brother. So this is a stage of crisis. Similarly, many community may face the crisis of identity. You can study. You can have a global study in many countries. Many minority community are facing this process of this status of identity crisis, and because of this identity crisis, people are having a stress, having a high level of anxiety, and several other social and political problems are raised up throughout the globe. You must be observing this in newspapers, in various news channels, and many social media, through social media sources. So we as a country, we as a teacher, we as a respective member of society must try to understand the concept of self, the concept of identity, and we must help others to develop their own concept and develop their identity on their own. And because respect to people of all identities, this is basically humanism, which we are talking about, and this is what we call as Vasudev Kutumbakam, respecting each and every member of the society equally. Now, friends, it is very important to discuss what are the role of teachers and how teacher can develop their own self, as well as how teacher can develop and help their students to develop their self. So first of all, we will discuss about teacher's role for development of their own self of the teacher himself or herself. So what can a teacher do to develop their own self? So first of all, it is very essential that each and every teacher must introspect to identify own desire, own strength, own their own weaknesses and goal of life as a teacher. Only then you can develop your own self. Then you must compare yourself with the ideal teachers and great educators and find out in what respect you are lagging behind from your ideals, and try to achieve those qualities. For all of us are teacher. For example, I am a teacher. You all are going to be teacher after doing B.Ed. You will join some schools for teaching, and all of us must have some ideal teacher in our life. If you peep into your background, if you peep into your school age, your college education, and then your university education, you will find certainly some or the other, one or the other, a very good teacher and the ideal teacher whom you love the most, whom you love to talk to, whom classes you want not to miss. So try to find out what are the qualities of those teachers and try to develop those qualities in your own personality. This will help you to develop your own self as a teacher. So, friend, you should develop positive qualities. Think about the positive qualities which you should develop. Think about and express whatever positive qualities you want to develop in yourself, and reflect those positive qualities which you want to develop. And in the course of your reflection, ultimately you will develop those qualities a day in future. Now, you should also adopt or adapt techniques for managing your emotions and enhancement of your competence in teaching. This is another very important, attribute of a self of the teacher. Now, you should also engage in intellectual activities like seminars, symposium, debates, conferences to enhance your abilities and to make you more confident and to recognize and to energize you to take up new challenges. You should also engage in positive self-appraisals and follow-up activities. Only then you can develop your self as a teacher, as an effective teacher, as a good teacher, as an ideal teacher for the learners. So now, friends, I now come to the very important aspect of this discussion, and that is teacher's role for development of students' self. We all are becoming teacher, and our responsibility is to develop ourselves first, and at the same time we are equally responsible for the development of self of our learners who are going to be a teacher in due course of time. So it is very essential on the part of the teacher that teacher must highlight the strength of all his students. If you highlight the strength, they will become motivated, they will become encouraged. So try to encourage and the strength of the highlight the strength of your students who are teaching. This will help them to understand themselves. Then share weaknesses and discuss how to overcome them. Don't share weakness to make them demoralize, but share weakness and discuss how to overcome them. So in this process, for positive as well as negative attributes, you are taking care of. You are highlighting the strength of the children, and you are at the same time sharing weakness so that they can overcome on those weakness. It will help them a lot to sail ahead. And then you should also arrange a wide array of activity oriented classes to develop students skills and help them to discover their self and develop self-knowledge. Then you should practice leadership so that they can learn to control situations and become self-reliant. As a teacher, display rational behavior and interact thoughtfully with students, as students consider their teachers as the role models and imitate their behavior. We, as a teacher, must not be, biased towards some student and unbiased towards, some others. So we should always be, totally, unbiased. We should not take party or support some particular group of students or particular students for some cause and oppose some other. No, we should be equal for each and every student. This will develop your good image among your learners, and in return, they will also develop the same attribute of being impartial in their own professional life of teacher. Now, you should also hold group discussion, group interaction, debates, discussion to help them to explore themselves and their abilities and to develop in them the ability to take challenges. This will help them to develop the ability of leadership in their encourages underachievers. That is those students who are getting low marks. So encourage underachievers and give them guidance to learn accepting failure and avoiding frustration, anxiety, negative feeling. Thereby restrict poor self-concept among the students, because if you will not encourage those underachievers in course of time, they will develop poor self-concept, and as their students develop poor self-concept, their development will stop. So try to restrict development of poor self-concept among underachievers of your class or of your school. Then provide chances to assume responsibilities by students inside and outside classrooms and give them opportunities to lead, to organize, to conduct, to manage various kind of activities. We must have positive interaction with the students to help them develop positive self-concept, since the students perceive themselves as how their teachers perceive them, and his self-evaluation is highly dependent on how their teachers evaluate them. Hence, it is desirable that the teachers make positive feedbacks and correct the flaws and mistakes with a positive note and encouragement to the learners. Encourage students to foster introspection. That is, let them think in their peeping in their own personality. Let them think about their own self. Let them think about their own achievement. Let them think about their own work. Let them think about their own value system. So if they will introspect on them, it will help them to evaluate themselves, and which will help the students to be aware of their inner states and improve performance of their controlled effort. Now, we as a teacher must pay heed to the positive and negative self-concept in students, for which mood swings occur in them, and teachers need to interact with the students carefully, aiming to build up an integrated self-concept. While delivering lessons, the teachers must refer to relevant past events, connect it to the present and contemporary knowledge, and also speak about the future implication. That is integration. You must integrate your teaching and the students' learning with their past experiences, their present experiences, and try to connect it with the future, so that they can see the entire scenario in a holistic situation and develop their self-concept in a better manner. You also should organize activities for students to develop self-knowledge among students, so that they perform those actions which facilitate them to realize their desired goals. You, as a teacher, must appraise students positively irrespective of their level of achievement, which encourages students for self-evaluation and add on to their self-knowledge. Develop healthy competition among learners. It should inspire the comparatively low-level performer and provide the feeling of accomplishment among high performers. Take care. Excessive comparison may result in unpleasant consequences among the learners. So friends, now we come to the conclusion, we come to the summarization of the entire discussion. We have discussed about self, about self-awareness, self-knowledge, self-motive, and self-concept. All these concepts are related to one another. basically we have come to know, we have understood that self-concept is basically in one way, one word you can say, in one sentence you can say that understanding about our own personality, understanding about our own weakness, understanding about our own strength, understanding about our own potentialities, what are the hidden potentialities in our own personality, what I can do and what I can't do. So understanding your own self, knowing your own self, and knowing your own strength and weakness, awareness about your own strength and weakness is basically self-concept as a whole. So unless we understand our self-concept in a better way, we cannot plan in a plan for our better future. And if we plan for future, if we set our goals of life without understanding our self-concept, it is there is a great chance that we may fail in achieving those goals because we haven't understood our strength, our weakness, our potentialities, and we may set wrong goals. So if you understand yourself in a better way, in a correct manner, your potentialities, your strength, your weakness, having these all in your mind, if you set your goal, it is there's a great chance that you will achieve those goals and you will achieve your ideal self. So always try to set realistic goals, so the goals which may be achieved by you, and only those goals may be achieved which are set only after understanding your personality as a whole, understanding about your self-concept in a better manner. So try to develop your self-concept and try to build your self-concept and try to set the aims of life, set the goals of life, set the objectives of life depending upon your self-concept. We have also understood about the identity. Understanding self lead you to develop your identity. So the identity is basically the features, the characters feature which make you separate from others. As a member of the society, or a member of the family, or as a member of the community, or a member of the class, or as a citizen of a nation. So this is identity, the peculiarity, the characteristic feature which make you different from others. So we have also discussed about Carl Roger's view on self and his self view of personality. You must be very interesting to know that, and you must be taking help of this theory in your own life. You will also try to understand your real self, and with that real self you will be in a position to develop your ideal self and to achieve those ideal self, and through hard labor, through sincere efforts, and through honest attempts, you will be in a position to set as well as achieve your ideal self. So we have also discussed about teachers' role in developing their own self, and how teachers can help with their students in developing their own self-concept so that they can shape their personality in a better way. Friends, teachers are the builders of the nation. Teachers are the person of the society. So teachers are the person of the society who holds the key for the success of the nation, who holds the key for the success of the society, who holds the key for the success of the community. Therefore, we, the teachers, must take this responsibility to understand, to develop our own self, and try to develop and help our students to develop their own self, their identity, so that they can become an ideal citizen of the nation, an ideal citizen of the society, ideal citizen of the community, and a very contributing member of the society at large. So with this, I thank you all, dear friends, and I hope you must have enjoyed this. Wish you all the best, and we wish that we will be meeting again in the next presentation. Thank you so much.